All right, mic check, 1 2 1 2. So that should pop up on everything. Let me switch the angle of which I have the microphone. Let me put the microphone like right here. Okay, so let's. Okay, y'all. So let's have a quick chat. All right, let's talk about some things. So I don't know when all this stuff started really becoming popular and blowing up. I need some water before I do this. Hold on. Yeah, I'm not sure when or how all this was decided that this was gonna be like the trend on YouTube, but I'm interested. I'm liking this whole like philosophical conversation slash debate slash us kind of getting it in however we can as not just content creators, obviously not just people trying to make content, but all of us in the world trying to figure out what's happening. I think obviously since COVID, things have been much harder to make sense out of. And a lot of things seem to not appear to be what they were promised to be and what we thought they were the whole time. So that's not what this video is about. What this video is about is me giving my 2 cents on, or basically sharing a story with you all. So I want to share with you all why I have decided that I'm going to be leaving my job. Why I've decided that I'm no longer going to work at my job. And I probably won't work at another, not probably, I will not work another 9 to 5 for the foreseeable future. If my mind calls for it again, if I find a situation that is both beneficial to me financially as well as something that pleases me in a way where I feel like I'm giving to those who need. And that can come in a lot of different ways. It doesn't have to be, 9 to 5 work. It doesn't have to be, I got a boss, I get a bi-weekly paycheck, or I get a paycheck every month, or I get a paycheck every week, whatever the case may be. I wanted to make this decision, let's see. Let's start from the beginning. Let's just start from the top. I started working at 15. Got my first job, worked as a dishwasher, and every year since then I've had a job. Every year since 15, I've had a job. So I've basically been in the system for over a decade when it comes to working, doing, using my body to make money so that I can live somewhere. What exasperated this issue for me recently, I'll just get this part out the way, is I got my own apartment, I got my own place. So I now have rent to pay for. I now have, I was already paying the power bill when I was living with my father, but now I have my own power bill, obviously, to pay for that no one else is going to pay for. I have to pay for, renter's insurance. I got to pay for, obviously, my car insurance. I own my car, so I don't have a car note. That's big positive. And I'll get into those things because to me, there's no envy, jealousy, pity. None of that's needed here. We're having a conversation between each other, and I'm just letting you guys know what I'm thinking as a way to, one, document my journey for myself and for others who may find it beneficial. And then two, I kind of just want to be able to have that voice out there that is more of a realistic, a realistic voice with these topics. I know sometimes people will get on here and their MO is kind of like, okay, let me appeal as much as possible. Let me tell you why jobs suck. I don't think jobs suck. Let's get that out the way. I don't think jobs suck. I don't think that there aren't opportunities out there. I don't think that everybody should be going with the idea that they are not going to work. The reason I feel comfortable at this point in time doing so, and I still don't feel comfortable, that I'm using that word very loosely. Like I said, since 15, I've been conditioned to work for someone else in order to fund whatever part of my life I needed funded, whether it was my whole entire life, a trip, bills, whatever the case may be, I've relied on working for someone else at the rate of pay which they offer to me and signing on to work with them however they see fit. That's pretty much what I've been doing since I turned 15. Okay. What really got me to be able to say, you know what, I'm gonna do it. Um, I'm trying to be particular. That's why there's so many, kind of awkward pauses. But I really feel like it had to have been COVID because I turned 21 the year COVID broke out. So I became legal. I became an adult in this country when, well, technically you become an adult at 18, right? But I became an adult with no holds barred, no temporary restrictions on this and that. At 21, I became an adult in America during the pandemic. My birthday is in March. Okay, I celebrated my birthday right before everything kicked off. And since then, I legitimately have no other way to describe how lost, how decentered I feel. I don't feel centered anymore. I don't feel like the universe and the world is the way I understood it. So now I'm kind of having to be a toddler again and relearn my understanding. And now I'm at the point where, okay, I want to make money. We're 5 years after the pandemic. I want to make money. I want to continue to work, but I can't continue to work for someone else. That's really what this is boiled down to. And honestly, I have one of the best jobs I've ever had currently. Best jobs I've ever had. Most pay I've ever had. Most freedom at a job that I've ever had. And probably the most responsibility I've ever had at a job as well. But it definitely is not something that I would have left maybe 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, whatever the case may be. This would have been perfect for me then. But at this point in time, with me being 26 and I'll be 27 in March, I have to start thinking about all the things that I really want to do with my life. And I was having a conversation with someone very, very close to me. And I just kind of, broke it down to them. Well, I asked them a question. I was like, if we continue to work where we're working, if we continue to earn the pay that we're earning. Actually, this is how I started. We were driving past these very nice homes, okay? These very nice homes in this part of town on the way to somewhere. And, we were talking about them, like, I like this one, I like that one, or I wouldn't do this with this one, but I would do that with that one. And maybe if this one had a patio and this one, whatever the case may be. We're going over these houses that we cannot afford. And I said to them, I was like, what if we worked where we were working for 15 more years? Like, what if we did it for maybe 10 more years, 10, 15 more years? Do you think we could get this house? And the person said, no, I don't think we could. And it struck me right then and there, like, okay, so there's no secret. There is no secret that this is technically a waste of time. Because if my goal is to get into one of those homes, if my goal is to put my parents in one of those homes, if my goal is to put my children in one of those homes, if I'm saying to myself in this moment, hey, where I'm working right now is not going to get me to that place, then I've got to start saying to myself, why am I still working here? When I got this job, remember, this is the best job that I've had so far, right? When I got this job, I realized then that I truly, in my heart of hearts, didn't want to work for anybody else. And I think what I was doing was I was running away from my previous position. So I was running away from the monotony of that position because I had been there for six years at that point, 5 years. And I just didn't want to do it anymore. The pay wasn't paying and the job just became too robotic in nature for me. I had done too much of the same every single day. And I just didn't appreciate it. I didn't feel like the job fit where I was going, where my mind was at. That was the first sign that I needed to get out. The second sign was I got this job that I told you was better in every facet possible. Other than maybe, I like my coworkers a lot more at my previous job because I had more coworkers. Now I'm in a position where I really don't have coworkers. I'm almost like a standalone entity in the realm that I'm in. I obviously work with people, but team member wise, it's me getting things done, and I'm not interacting too much with other people on work. With that being said, that's almost like the dream position for me 2-3 years ago, for sure. Like that is exactly what I would have asked for. And I'm grateful and thankful to have the opportunity to have worked here for over a year. And it's the same company, just a different position, different team, different department. But now, now I'm at the point where in today's world, today's time, I'm realizing that none of this is promised. And the way, you look at housing, right? The way I struggled to get an apartment, the way I struggled to get a place, not because I couldn't afford it, but because I couldn't afford it, if you get what I'm saying. Like, I had the money, I just didn't have enough money. So they want triple the rent. So that means that even if I could afford to pay, let's say, $2,000 a month, which is insane for, 1-2 bedroom apartment, but let's say the rent was $2,000 a month. In the state that I live in, it's 100% legal for them to say we want triple the rent. So we want you to be able to make $6,000 a month to qualify to live here, and I'm not making $6,000 a month at my job. So it put me in a position where I had to find like the sweet spot to, safety, location, what would be my commute to work. All these different things got factored in, and a lot of this is normal. But what was not normal was the process of how extreme we had to dig to find what we found to get this place. We had to dig, and I'm talking about I went through excruciating experiences for a year straight to get to this place right now. And it definitely is something that I kept in the back of my mind, because my father worked for the same company from 6 months before I was born to my 19th birthday, I believe. Almost, maybe I was 19 or maybe I was turning 18. Either way, he got let go. That's almost 20 years of working for a company. And they downsized and said, hey, we don't need you no more. That moment taught me then you can never give a company your life. I knew I could never give a company my life because my father did that, his adult life, and look what they did to him. So I told myself I'm never gonna get burned like that. I saw how much that ate him up to lose that part of him, because that was his identity. What he did, how he worked, that was his identity, and he had to come up with a whole new identity. He had to work so many oddball jobs. But thankfully he bounced back, you know what I mean? But I watched him do that my first year of college, and it ate me up, it ate me alive. And now I saw myself kind of repeating that same process. Now, mind you, during this time, so working at this company that I've been working for the last 7 years, I've started 4 YouTube channels. I have a music career that I am in love with. I love to make music. I've been making music since before I wanted to work. Since before I could work. I've been making music since I was 13 years old. So that's something that's been a part of me for forever. I started writing at 11. That is my dream. That's my dream thing to do, is to create unequivocally, without anybody being able to say, okay, you need to be here 10 hours of this day, and then for the last 6 hours, you can go and do this. No. I want to be able to create from sun up to sundown. That's my goal. That's where I want to get to. So understand that. My goal was never to work at a Fortune 500 company. My goal was never to be a CEO of a $1 billion industry, or a company within a $1 billion industry. That was never my goal. My goal was to make enough money to eventually figure out how to be financially independent of the system. And because that's my goal, I am now working towards that in live action by getting rid of this job. How I plan to supplement my income is what I'm doing right now. I'm not a fool. I don't want to live off, I don't want to live off the government. I don't want to live off other people. I don't want to live off, I want to make money in a way that suits me mentally, physically, and financially. And spiritually, honestly, spiritually, because I want my work to matter. I want to do things that matter. I want to positively impact. And so that is what led me here. The pandemic mixed with the uncertainties of life that I've seen firsthand, and with me realizing I'm not working towards my goal here. You know what I mean? I'm not working towards anything by sitting here other than just being around people. And I'm one of the youngest people at my job. Like not only in my position, for sure I'm the youngest person in my position, but I'm one of the youngest people at my job. And as far as, people don't want to bring in race and all that, I don't care what y'all want. I am the only African American male in my position at my job. You feel what I'm saying? So for me, it's almost like, okay, there's a lot of things that I'm letting go by deciding not to work here anymore. But it's not based on anything as far as somebody doing something wrong or somebody mistreating me. I do feel like there is times where, leadership definitely had their head a little bit, far removed from the worker bee situation. And I definitely felt like a worker bee in terms of, you get the applause, you get the pat on the backs, you get the claps, you get the, oh my gosh, appreciate all the work you're doing. But then when you mess up or you do something that is perceived as a mess up, or you do something that somebody at the time doesn't understand what you're doing, but then when you clear it up, it's like, oh, okay. But the smoke that comes with that, the energy, the passive aggressiveness, the determination to figure out what you did wrong, even though you're adamant, like, I didn't do anything. I never, and thankfully, I never got put in a situation where I really felt the bruit of that, but I definitely within this last year got stung by a lot of idle minds. And it just reminded me, like, this isn't my company. I don't have any say on how these practices happen. I don't have any say on what goes left, what goes right. I am just there to get my pat on the back and move on. I'm just there to get my pat on the back and do the next job. So I just thought to myself, I've seen enough of how to run a company, how to make these things work. Now, obviously, I'm not here to sell something to anybody, so it's not something that I can completely emulate. But I could work this into my normal everyday life, and I think I can get off of the system. And the reason I felt so confident was because we're in 2025. I've seen so many people do it. Why do I have to be the person that has to look at someone else do what I want to do and say, oh yeah, don't give yourself that dream. Don't give yourself that goal. Don't give yourself that sense of accomplishment by trying to fight for something you want to do. I'm not going to sit here just to sit here because everybody on the YouTube and the internet sphere and the blog sphere, I don't know why I said blog sphere. There's no blog going to be reporting on this, but I just don't find it reasonable for me to short circuit my own life to make everybody feel comfortable in conversation when I tell them what I've done with my life. Because when I say, hey, I'm leaving a good paying job, one of the best jobs I ever had, and I tell my mom or I tell my dad or I tell my my family and friends, they'll be like, hey, you're retarded. And I have to say, okay, maybe I'm not retarded, maybe I'm a dreamer. Okay, you're a retarded dreamer. That's what they'll say to me. But what good would that do to just avoid that awkwardness, avoid that convo, but sign up for years worth of awkward exchanges, awkward interactions, passive aggressive procedures, passive aggressive. Let me tell you this. Let me just say this. If you're young enough to have not had to have a job, or if you're blessed enough to have not had to have a job, or if you're in a situation where you cannot currently have a job, I will say, from somebody leaving the corporate world or the super business world, it is just filled with microaggressions, just microaggressions. And it's amazing how many of us really deal with passive aggressiveness on a daily basis and don't self-delete. It is amazing to me because there's certain situations where I think you are completely vulnerable, and it's when somebody has your money tied up in a situation. And your job has your money tied up because if you say what you want to say, if you respond how you want to respond, if you get out of character, if you don't respond to this email the right way, if you don't join this meeting and do the right use the right verbiage, have the right body language, you can be perceived as not only a risk but a threat. And it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you just don't sign up for that. And if you want to change corporate culture, you go make your own company. Trust me, if you want to change corporate culture, you go make your own company. You make it into the top 500, Fortune 500, and you say, here at our business, we don't do any of these. Everything that Elon Musk got criticized for with what's happening with his communication with his Twitter staff, his Tesla staff, he made that decision. He solely said, as CEO, I have the power to make this decision. And he did it. That's the same thing you can do if you want to change that infrastructure, if you want to change that culture, but I don't think it gets changed from within with systems that are already built. I think that's how we got here, by believing that we could change systems that were already built with people that don't want to see these systems change. I'm just not going to advocate for that. There's going to be people on the other side of the fence that think they can, and I could potentially be wrong. I'm only 26. Obviously, I could be wrong. I have no idea what I'm talking about at the end of the day. I'm just giving you my personal anecdotal experience. And from me, take it from me, follow your heart, follow your gut, come up with a year plan, and in a year, free yourself. If you don't want to work for a company anymore, if you don't want to work for a job anymore, if you don't know if you're ready to take that risk to just walk away, give yourself a year's time. Come up with a year plan. This took me 4 years to do. I really told myself in 2020 I wasn't going to do this anymore. In 2018, I said, wouldn't it be great if I made a YouTube channel where I posted these games that I play for free on my own time that I spend money to buy and I play it for free on my own time, all these hours on Steam, all these hours on Xbox, all these hours on my PC, why would I not just go ahead and stream that or give that to people, content wise? I made that decision in 2018, and I told myself if I made enough money, I'll leave my job. It took me 7 years to get to a point where I was now comfortable enough to take that risk. Because I knew I was never going to take the risk. I knew I was never going to step out and do it unless I sat down and said to myself, you know what? I need to succeed or fail right now. I need to succeed or fail right now. I need to sink or swim right now. And that's how I came to this decision. That's how I came to this conclusion. So if you're debating on whether or not you want to make that next step in your life, if you're debating on whether or not you want to, move on to that part of life for you and for your family, I think it's something that you need to work on from today till next year. That's my honest to God, real truth of advice. Give yourself a year's plan. I know you'll take care of yourself if you give yourself a year's time. If you feel like you can only give yourself 6 more months maximum at this position, give yourself 6 more months maximum. I will say, the first 2 to 3 months you work somewhere, there's this benevolent grace period where everybody knows you're the new person. They know you're the new guy. They know you're the new girl. And everything you do wrong gets written under this umbrella of new girl, new guy, mishaps. But in the state that I live in, I live in a right to fire state, a right to fire. So within the first 90 days, they can fire you for any reason at all. Any reason at all, you can get fired. So again, that is basically the period of time where you want to kind of, I don't want to say experiment, but it's like a damned if you do, damned if you don't, because the company can fire you for anything. But you definitely want to sit down and say within those first 90 days, do I want to be here? And usually within a week of working somewhere, if this is where you want to be. And sometimes things change within that first month, 2 months, 3 months. But again, come up with a plan. Figure out what you want to do, where you want to get to, and stop listening to the everyday voices. Stop listening to your parents. Stop listening to your partner who doesn't know what you want in your heart. Stop listening to your friends who don't live the life that you have to live 24/7. Focus on you. Don't think about tomorrow. Think about a year from now. I know that sounds horrible. I know how you're feeling. Like, what is he talking about a year from now? Just trust me. Give yourself a year to formulate this idea into existence, and you will take care of everything you got to take care of. But until next time, friends, peace.